Welcome to episode 199 of Empty the Bench on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. Tom Albano, Nick Morgasen, back for another great episode. Make sure you follow us on social media at ETB Sports, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Follow us on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network at ETB Network, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Make sure you go on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network. I think we're at 525 last time we checked the subscribers. Make sure you follow our website, etbpodcast.com, for all great blogs and content we're picking up for NFL blogs for the season. So make sure you follow that as well. And make sure you take us on the go for audio as well. Acast, iHeart, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a bunch of other platforms. And yes, I did say Twitter. I meant X. So yes, X.
All right, we got a lot we're going to get through today. Obviously, the big talk of the town is this ESPN Spectrum story that, well, in the words of, I think, our good friend Johnny Montalbano on Game On, I mean, could pretty much define potentially the downfall of television. I think even Andrew Marchand on his podcast with John Orr was basically insinuating the same thing, that what's going on out of the ESPN Spectrum thing and what could come of it could pretty much be a whole shaking point within the media field and what happens in terms of television and streaming afterwards. But obviously, outside of that, we do have the on-the-field action to talk about. Nick Bosa just got a huge bag right before we started recording. Tyreek Hill's not going to be disciplined. We have the kickoff game that starts in about 5 hours' time between the Lions and Chiefs. Significant injury. Obviously, we're recording this on Wednesday night, late Wednesday night, so we don't have an official word on one Travis Kelce, but he is going to play a role one way or another in what happens with that game. We'll talk about Julio Urias on the baseball side. We'll talk more about just, I think in the words of Hank and Dichter from Hitting for the Cycle, how Artie Moreno should be in jail, because Ohtani, Trout, and Rendon all have their own issue. They all have their own headline banner.
I mean, yeah, this is nuts. Baseball is finally... I'm kind of glad, because we don't talk baseball as much as we really want to on this podcast. And when you have two big stars plus one dummy who tries to say, I don't know how to speak English when he does dumb things, that just made my day. Also, we'll get into the positive side of baseball as well. We don't talk the Yankees enough on here because just of all the national headlines. Jasson Dominguez sees orbit. Well, better yet, more like a Martian orbit. Hitting 2 home runs, one off Justin Verlander. And who was the other one off?
It was on the Sunday Night Baseball broadcast. I forget who was off, but actually, right before we started recording, he hit his first in the Yankee Stadium.
This is crazy. This is like an unbelievable start. I think he's like the youngest prospect out of their organization to start like that too. I think I was reading.
Yeah, let's say within a very short span, the median and average age of the New York Yankees has dropped, and perhaps for the better.
Yeah, I agree. The Yankees, and I know Hank and Dichter, yes, from Hitting for the Cyclists, when I made the joke, is that baby bombers? And he's like, nope, don't want to hear that.
Well, they're not calling themselves that. They're going to be called the Yankee Youths.
Great. Just like the Yankees ruin everything. And Anthony Rizzo officially done for the season, I think, with concussion protocol situations as well. Well, we have a lot to get into, but yes, baseball is exciting for this podcast.
Before we get on this Yankee soapbox, I think let's get on the soapbox about this ESPN Spectrum issue. And I feel the most bad, not just for everybody who has Spectrum, but for like our co-host, our friend Johnny Montalbano, who has Spectrum, and as he was getting ready to watch the Thursday night, week 1 kickoff of college football, all of a sudden flashing on the screen, Spectrum's message of, hey, screw Disney, we're looking out for you and the flexible ways for you to watch football. And so we have eliminated all Disney channels, from ABC to ESPN to Disney, the Disney Channel, all the different ESPN subsidiary networks like ESPN2 and ESPNU. So, yeah, not off to a great start is ESPN. And I mean, not off to a great start is this college football season because of the whole ESPN Spectrum debacle. And I mean, Nick, it is just I'm not going to pick a side on here because both sides in their own realm are kind of the devil, but it's just another negative headline for ESPN in 2023.
I mean, one, there's two sounds I could play for this. There's that, and then basically what Spectrum said to ESPN. They basically sounded the alarms and said, you know what, ESPN, screw you. We don't need your content. We're not going to pass. And here's the reason why Spectrum finally just said we had enough. They don't want to keep passing the prices to the customers. Otherwise, customers are going to be like, F you, I'm leaving Spectrum. I'll go somewhere else. I'll go to Optimum or I'll go to Verizon. I'll go somewhere else. I don't need Spectrum. And kind of a cold shoulder move that you do it right before the big prime college football game of the year in week one.
How convenient that the contract expired right before kickoff.
And here's the other issue. So is Spectrum going to really screw their customers for Monday Night Football, Jets, Bills? How much?
Yes.
You think they're going to screw them?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So, like, Nick, think about it. If you read all the different headlines and such about this deal, they're expecting that this could go on for a while. They're expecting that this is going to end up being a very bad and very brutal carriage dispute.
Yeah, and you and Zan on MMA Outsiders talked about a whole other issue with ESPN. So ESPN's not really winning the debate as of right now between issues with Spectrum and Charter. Let me throw Charter out there as well because they're having issues with Charter as well. But you also have the issues with pay-per-views on top of it. Because ESPN, let's put it this way, they're in massive amounts of debt, like a lot of media companies are. So
actually, I want to, before we get into that, to give context. So Zan, my co-host on the MMA Outsiders, he wasn't even going as any reporter. He wasn't trying to do any digging. He was calling up as a subscriber to ESPN Plus and basically threatening to cancel the service because of how much the price of the bundle of ESPN Plus, Disney Plus, and Hulu gone up. And he has found out that basically ESPN plans within the next month or so to increase the price of that bundle of those three platforms from $18.99 a month to $23.99 a month. And we said that basically, just to give the context of, from of combat sports, how basically that means UFC and boxing pay-per-views will probably get increased as well, which would be the fourth time in about 2 years that the price of UFC pay-per-views has gone up. So, I mean, yes, cha-ching, but I even said on it, when you have a headline like this, and everyone is talking about the prices of your products, Nick, to the point, and this is something that, we could bring up later, but I think we should bring up now, because we have brought it up previously when talking about ESPN, all the rumors that potentially by 25 or 26, ESPN could say, screw television, and what you see with ESPN Plus, the over-the-top service, could be the future of ESPN.
Here's the problem. And I think I touched on this when we talked about it a couple weeks ago, that people don't want to pay for everything. They're just not going to. But the other thing that's going to be redistributed now because of this issue with Spectrum and ESPN, we've now gotten to a point where we're just going to say, I want this service. I want this. I'm going to pay for this. I want a la carte. I want to be able to go up to the buffet and choose the choices that I want. And I don't want to pay for stupid things, like including, think about this. So you have Amazon for NFL. You have Peacock. You have ESPN Plus. You have, if you want to go outside of sports, Netflix, Hulu. Like it's a service game. It's a streaming service game. No one, and I hate when, and maybe we're just old men when it comes to this. I like watching TV. Stop putting everything behind a paywall. I don't care. I just won't watch. I won't watch. It's stupid.
I mean, but it is also the future. But it is the future though, because more people are turning to streaming. And Johnny Montalbano had mentioned that he fears that television is going to go into the same direction that radio is in right now. Which absolutely, he's 100% right. But when you're talking about the a la carte of like, I want this, but when you look at the prices and you add everything up, Nick, you're paying just as much as you would pay for a normal, 800,000 channels of cable. All it is just reinventing the wheel.
Well, here's the problem. Here's what people are pissed off about is what is the most expensive channel on most bundles, on not bundles, but cable packages? What's the most expensive channel?
It's ESPN.
It's ESPN. It's like $8 out of all the other channels. And that's what people are saying. Hey, if I don't even watch sports, why do I have to pay $8 for ESPN on my cable package? I don't want it. Give me something else.
And so, by the way, I'm taking this from WVXU. At the heart of the dispute, for those who don't know, is the cable company's desire to get a piece of streaming action in its next carriage agreement with Disney, because Spectrum knows that ESPN is going to be looking to, ditched into its own streaming platform. I mean, again, obviously we have ESPN Plus and all the emphasis that ESPN has put on that platform. But now with the potential that could be the future, I guess Spectrum wants a piece because, again, like it adds up with what Johnny is talking about what the future of television is going to be as a medium. Because I just think about it, Nick, and how ESPN, they call themselves the worldwide leader in sports. Now, we may have questions about it, but I'm thinking, Nick, that let's say ESPN does do that they say, screw television, will be our own platform, the streaming service, and that's it. I'm just trying to think, does that mean HBO might one day say, you know what will follow in their footsteps? If Fox, well, I shouldn't say Fox because they are a local channel.
Well, Fox has its own streaming platform.
Right. But I'm saying, like, if ESPN goes through with that and decides, screw television, we're just going to have the ESPN Plus, and that is the future of ESPN, do you see other networks with their big streaming platforms following suit? And I honestly can.
When one does it, they all do it. That's what they say in all businesses. The first one is usually the originator of the idea, but then they get slaughtered because everybody else does it. So you're going to see streaming take it. Streaming's already taking over. Do you remember how mad I got when I found out the exclusive Peacock game for the playoffs for the NFL?
Right.
Come on. Are you
right? But I think the point is, it's not so much that streaming is taking over; it's that television, like what Johnny said, television as a medium, it's about to meet its end. Well, I shouldn't say meet its end, but it's about to.
It's not that it took over. Streaming is dominating. It is already dominating. You're getting exclusive things on ESPN Plus. You're getting exclusive things on Peacock. You're getting exclusive things on whatever pick your choice stream. Amazon. Amazon has its own sports programming if you go inside the app now. I mean, I'm just getting tired of it. I want to turn on the TV. I want to watch. And I'm tired of people saying that no one watches TV. We all watch TV. That's what we grew up on. And the other thing with YouTube TV and the Sunday Ticket, there's already issues with Sunday Ticket.
But again, that goes to my point of anyone. Listen, I understand the changing in demographics. You're saying everyone watches TV. I don't know if I can believe that. But you add up the prices of all these different platforms that you have. That's what I mean by it's just reinventing the wheel. You're paying the same thing that you would with cable. So, I can't say anything is so spectacular. Like, yeah, it was spectacular, 10, 15 years ago when Netflix started its own streaming service and had started its original programming. In the early days when you had, what was it, like House of Cards and such.
But I want to bring up another issue. I want to bring up another issue as well. So if we all remember when COVID hit and we had to watch all this content because we didn't have anything to watch because shows
Tiger King days.
the Tiger King days, right? That's kind of when the streaming boom took off because no one wanted to leave their house or couldn't leave their house. They didn't want to go to a movie theater anymore. Before COVID, we were all going to movie theaters to watch movies. Now they're making direct to streaming platform movies, or with games, it's direct to streaming platforms. I mean,
Yep.
So I'm not blaming COVID for this, by the way, but that kind of elevated the speed of streaming taking over.
Oh yeah. No, it absolutely escalated it. But at this point, it is the future. And all I'm gonna say on this is ESPN Spectrum, get your crap together, get a deal done, because like I said, ESPN with based on what Sam discovered, based on you think about Nick, some of the other headlines we talked about with ESPN, with say all the layoffs and such, and the changing of direction with ESPN, the fact that it's the most that if this continues on any further, ESPN is going to continue to lose popularity.
But here's the irony of the situation. They put Pat McAfee's show on TV, even though it's a audio, radio, digital platform. Why do you think they put it on TV? They want a younger demographic to watch TV, because obviously TV is not dead. It's the same thing.
Well,
radio,
even though
go ahead. Yeah.
Here's my question, because I think of like what the UFC does, how you have it's on ESPN and ESPN Plus. The cards that are on the ESPN network, they'll have a way that you can watch it on ESPN Plus as well. Because normally, if it's just an ESPN feed, when you go on ESPN Plus, it'll get blacked out and basically say you'll get an error and you have to tune to the television. You don't do that with the ESPN Plus. I'm wondering if McAfee is going to be something like that, where you can just watch it on ESPN Plus and watch that feed.
So the way the deal works is he's all 3 hours are on TV. That was already agreed upon. It's going to be on the ESPN YouTube channel. It will be on ESPN Plus, but if it's on the YouTube channel, why would you pay for it? And on top of that, I do want to touch on one thing. I know you guys talked about it on Outsiders, but like I got really like fired up when we did that topic about the pay-per-views being raised and all the issues of like how many times you're going to raise the prices. Raised. Yes, because you're pricing people out of covering a sport. Because think about it. You don't see this with MLB. You don't see this with NBA. And you don't really see it with the NFL. You can pretty much watch the games for the most part, one way, shape, or form. In the MMA world, one second. With the MMA world, you have to pay for everything. You literally have to pay for everything almost to watch it.
And Nick, it gets to the point where with how UFC, because of their little contract with ESPN, if you remember, that they're required to do, I think it's 42 cards a year, that basically there are going to be some cards that are just like have no star power or have little star power to it, to the point where MMA on Point actually dropped a video on the day we're recording this. Is this Saturday's UFC pay-per-view card in Australia? Israel Adesanya headlining. If you look further, there aren't like many ranked fighters and such. It's a lot of, now granted, it's a lot of Australian fighters. I expect that when the UFC does international card, they're going to get people from that country on that card. But you look at the level of talent and such, is that card really worth $80? And the consensus from MMA community, right, from the MMA fans to the MMA media, the consensus is a no.
Well, here's the other problem you're going to make, and I heard you mention it partially when you talked about it, was you're going to end up making choices of which cards you're going to pick. And on top of that, you're just going to say, screw this, I'm not covering this fight. Is this worth $85 out of my pocket that I'm going to burn?
Now, granted, I have the ability to do that because I am a freelancer. But, for somebody else, I think James Lynch mentioned it, for him, he's got to pay for everything.
But here's the other issue, and I'm not saying where you are in general. I'm talking about everybody. Like, when you have to do work whether you're freelancing, covering the cards, or you have to do coverage, the company should help pay for it. If you're doing a job where you're covering the fights, they should at least help with part of it. I'm not saying they should pay the whole thing, because that's not their responsibility, but they should help.
That's why I'm having a meeting with an accountant soon to see if I can make this some sort of tax write-off.
But is that really going to make a huge difference, even if if you were able to make that tax deductible?
We'll see.
I still think it's ridiculous that you're covering the cards. It's not like you're just doing write-ups and interviews. No disrespect, by the way. I'm just pointing out you're covering the cards, which means you have no choice. You have to buy the card.
Yes, and you're talking about making choices. So here's an interesting scenario that came up on the MMA Outsiders. So, like next month is the big Abu Dhabi card. I don't know if I can say big compared to previous years, but decent main event, decent co-main event. The week after that, the UFC is not promoting this one. It's the Francis Ngannou Tyson Fury fight, the boxing exhibition. To play little devil's advocate here, yes, UFC, the bigger company and such, and maybe the cheaper pay-per-view by a little bit, but here's where the devil's advocate comes in. I help with the PFL for their website for this season. Francis signed with the PFL. Should I not pay for that one because, PFL brethren? That's, obviously it's not a PFL card directly because it's boxing, but you get what I mean? That, hey, that is my, PFL colleague and I should support that.
I mean, this is going to sound awful, but PFL is paying you like right. Real money.
No, right. But that's the thing. But I talk about making choices because you take those two pay-per-views combined, that's $180 I'm spending in 2 weeks. Plus the Madison Square Garden card is a few weeks afterwards. You add that up, that's 200 something. This is why, Nick, for all the crap that we give Vince McMahon when we talk about wrestling, he did it right. He did the network streaming right, where the pay-per-view, the event is within the network. Like, he made the correct business model. Now, granted, I think UFC might dispute that because, hey, WWE's entertainment, we're a real sport. But you can at least, and I think Zan was going to, you can at least, for the guys who have been subscribed to you in your service from day one or continue to purchase, you can offer some sort of discount.
No, I agree with you. And like I said, and I put it out in the YouTube short and the TikTok that went out, like that ESPN is pricing out UFC and MMA media because they are. I mean, I feel bad for guys like
Nick,
Lynch.
Nick, not just MMA media, but fans. Honestly, just the fans of the sport, the ones who want to watch. Because think of your typical middle class person who wants to be an MMA fan. And we have talked about this. I have talked about this, and Helwani has talked about this, but ESPN Plus, $5.99 a month plus the different pay-per-views. So $80 times 12 or 13. DAZN, it's like $19.99 a month plus any sort of pay-per-views, so the $60 or so for that. If you want to add professional wrestling with the WWE Network through Peacock is like $5.99 a month. Actually, I might be wrong. I might have said ESPN Plus was $5.99 a month, but ESPN Plus. My point is everything adds up, and it is expensive to be a combat sports fan. It's not just the MMA media, folks. It's also, if you're from a poor background, obviously it's going to be a struggle to watch some of these pay-per-view cards anyway, but you think if these pay-per-view prices go up again and it gets to $85, somebody who, when just a couple of years ago was only $65 and was able to purchase every single card, you're going to lose those people. It's going to stretch into the middle class people, and it's going to force, as you said, people to make some really difficult choices. And those more expensive premiums like the ESPN Plus UFC pay-per-view events are going to be what's sacrificed.
Right, but are you really going to want to pay for all those platforms to really do the job that, as you referred to in Outsiders, you were not necessarily in it for the money, so to speak. You were more into it because you love what you do. When I got into radio when I was in school, was it the most highest paying thing I was ever going to do? No, but I liked what I did in radio. Did I really want to be in political radio? No, but I got to do a lot of interesting things for almost 4 years. I got to the point where I worked on a nationally syndicated show that was heard in 250 markets, and I got to explore all different countries around the world. My host traveled all over the world. So we do this because we love it. We don't necessarily do it because we're looking to get rich. Do we all want to get rich one day? That's why we're doing a podcast network. We're trying to build it and get a million places so that we can have the flexibility to do what we want to do. But unfortunately, it's not as easy as people think it is.
No. And eventually it gets to the point where you have to question if the economic burden is worth it.
My point to you was, and like, not that I want to give away everything we talk about behind the scenes because it's not, but like you and I had a conversation about content and like how you want to go about doing content. And I said to you, maybe like paying the $85 a fight is just not worth it anymore. For like you said, for a fan, it's not worth it anymore. Because again, $85 to most people is like rich to some people. I hate saying that, but it's true.
Right. Again, because it's not just $85. It's $85 times 12 or 13. Like I said on Outsiders, like about $3,000 a year. And before taxes, that's already 5% of what I make, on a yearly basis at my full-time job.
See, you scared me partially when you said that was 5% of your salary, what you were paying for MMA pay-per-views. I literally would have said to you, F it, not worth it anymore.
All right. Speaking of payment, 49ers defensive end Nick Bosa, he got a payment. He got a bag. 5 years, $170 million. It is a record-setting. I see you forgot to take the
yes
loop off on that one. It is a record-setting deal, I believe, for a defensive end.
Yes, it is.
It is $122.5 million guaranteed. Highest paid defensive player in history by a wide margin.
I mean, I could not believe when I heard this. First of all, I don't know if you saw on our ETB Sports account, I had literally, I think it was like an hour or two before that report came out of the contract, that he was nowhere to be found near the stadium. Like they just said he was like AWOL, gone, not reporting. Now it's amazing how $170 million makes you show up to the stadium.
I'm just, I'm a little surprised. Now, granted, Nick Bosa is a hell of a talent, and for him to get the bag, I mean, well deserved. But I just think about all the different ways, the 49ers have, they're going to be paying a lot of people, or they're going to need to pay a lot of people over the next few years. So part of what might have helped, actually, Nick, is earlier on the day we're recording this, the 49ers cleared $23.224 million in cap space because they restructured the contracts of tight end George Kittle and of Trent Williams.
I mean, Kittle was their big guy for a long time. I think he had a big contract for a while down in San Francisco. He's kind of been a little injury prone. I mean, and then you sign guys like Debo, who are on the older side that make good money. He's really valued himself since he's gone to San Francisco from Denver. But I don't know. I'm a little.
But I mean, Nick, I'm just saying. Like, you look at some of these cap hits. Like Debo is going to be $28.5 million next year. Kittle's going to be $19.8. You got this record-setting deal. I mean, Christian McCaffrey's gonna. I think his price tag jumps up soon. If not already.
I was going to say they should look at their counterparts in San Francisco because they're going to have the highest cap in the league. At some point, the Warriors are $500 million. Now you're going to have the Niners, who are going to be in cap hell category almost because they want to pay for everybody.
I mean, Nick, when it's time for Brandon Ayuk to get re-upped, I don't know if they're going to have the money to do that.
Someone's going to get sacrificed. I don't know who it's going to be, but it could be him. It could be Kittle eventually. Because once you restructure, you're already in the process of, am I going to be cutting this person? Because if you're willing to restructure the deal, you're going to be looking to cut. And that's why NFL contracts are kind of a crapshoot. Because you see all the money, even though it says 122 guaranteed, there's another 48 million on the table that's not being used. So they could just cut. I mean, that would be a lot of money to cut on a guaranteed deal. But, I mean, is Nick Bosa a good player? Yes. I'm tired of this nonsense, though, of, oh, I'm threatening to sit out. I'm going to screw my team. And then, oh, wait, I come back right before the start of the season, get 170 million. It makes no sense. It doesn't.
Other football news, Tyreek Hill from the Dolphins will not face any discipline for the allegation of assault from over the summer. According to Sports Illustrated, the NFL made that confirmation. Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office spokesperson Ed Griffith indicated last month that the case is closed. No charges were filed. In a written statement provided to the media, the individual who, quote, would have been termed a victim if there had been a filed case, met with Assistant State Attorney Robert Falo and signed a form saying he did not want to press charges. The quote from Griffith is on the form. He also indicated that no threats, promises, or coercion played a part in his decision.
Oh, please. This is ridiculous. We saw the video of him going after someone. You're telling me that all of a sudden nothing occurred in that video? Oh, gone, see ya, invisible. Like, it's like John Sterling calling a foul ball to second base a home run. Are we just supposed to expect that something didn't happen? Oh, yeah. Well, that too. But in my opinion, this goes to another
emotional damage.
Because this is emotional damage in the sport. Tyreek Hill is emotionally damaged. He is. It's so ridiculous. He's done so many horrible things and gets away with it.
Moving on, just to wrap up football. It's Thursday Night Football. Let me be specific. It's not Thursday Night Football, the Amazon Prime. It is NFL kickoff. It is the first game of the NFL regular season. The defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs play host to the Detroit Lions.
Okay, I'm going to stop so we don't get struck by YouTube. But yeah, first pick of the year. Also, make sure you catch our picks tomorrow on Friday at noon Eastern, where we get all of us together for Football Friday. Hopefully everything cooperates. But I look at this line. This line has dropped since the last couple of days because we got some news in the process that Travis Kelce, tight end star Travis Kelce, is now doubtful for opening night against the Lions.
So when Johnny did his little pick on the Monty moment, that was recorded prior to any news coming out about Travis Kelce, but he is now on the questionable tag that we don't know what is going to happen to him on the Thursday night game with the Lions. And as a result, you saw the line drop a little bit, line now at 4.5 for the Chiefs. Obviously, the Chiefs coming off of a huge Super Bowl victory, the second for Patrick Mahomes. Travis Kelce was, obviously he's a tight end, but he plays a role on the team. Like, he is a tight end and the wide receiver one. So without him, it's going to be a really good test because, speaking of Tyreek Hill, I was one of those, unfortunately, I raised my hand in eating crow that when Tyreek Hill was traded to Dolphins, I said, well, that's going to be a bit of a blow for Mahomes and company. And last season proved, no, not the case. But without Travis Kelce, he is going to have to depend on the likes of Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Sky Moore. So basically, he's going to have to hope that some of those dark horse receivers end up stepping up. But the question, it's going to play, it's going to be fun to watch because it's going to play up that question of, is Patrick Mahomes the kind of leader, the kind of quarterback that can help elevate all those guys? Because, MVS and Sky Moore, in terms of the fantasy perspective, everyone will put, those two are kind of like dark horses, and people will pick them because they say it's Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, they need the backup. They need the fantasy points. They need the receiver. Obviously, you had some people in fantasy that would handcuff their receiver or their tight end just in case. When I look at this game, like if Kelce was playing, this would have been a mismatch in every way, shape, or form.
See, but here's the thing. When you say the word mismatch, the Lions are coming off of a season. Yeah, they missed the playoffs, but honestly, they had a hell of a ride. They only won one of their first, 7 or 8 games, and then won almost all of the second half, except for maybe 1 or 2.
Well, if it wasn't for Seattle, then they would have made the playoffs.
Yeah. knocking off Green Bay in the last week. Obviously, they don't have DeAndre Swift anymore. He's now in Philadelphia. They don't have Jamal Williams anymore. He's now in New Orleans. But they still have Jamar Gibbs. Obviously, Jameson Williams is suspended for the first 6 games of this season. And I mean, credit in the world to Jared Goff in playing a role in, the production of the offense. And Dan Campbell, hell of a coach that, he has made believers in the Lions out of, let's say, most people. Obviously, certain people on this network think otherwise.
I mean, here's the thing. I think the Lions will be good, but I have to look at the quarterback matchup and right away say Patrick Mahomes, Jared Goff. Patrick Mahomes, Jared Goff. So like that. Don't get me wrong. Jared Goff had an amazing season. Like, I'm not even saying that as hyperbole. Like, he had an amazing season. Like, he had to prove himself. Now, don't get me wrong. He had his contract. Now, I'm sure Matt Stafford is thinking his lucky stars. He was traded from Detroit to the Rams and ended up winning a Super Bowl. But I don't know. Jared Goff could be a good quarterback if he chooses to be. Now, Nick, what do you mean if he chooses to be? If he actually went to put the effort in and played, which he did last year. Now, it's hard to, as they say, strike lightning in a bottle twice. And do I think he'll have a good year? I think he'll have a good year. I don't think he'll have the year that Goff had last year. That's tough to duplicate. You don't have Williams, like you said. You don't have Swift, which now makes the Eagles even more ridiculous to face. But I see the Chiefs, and I'll be one to say to make up. You got something first?
I was going to say, so now here's my question, and I guess I know the action you were going to do to answer that question. Does the Chiefs not having Travis Kelce, does that maybe temper you into not saying maybe take the money? That is this going to be a closer game than people might expect?
I also think the line is now more favorable with Kelce out. Like you're going to get people say, "Oh well, I'm going to take a chance on the line and say the Lions will cover that 4.5." Is that more doable with Kelce out? Yes, obviously it's more doable. You're taking away one of Patrick Mahomes, or I shouldn't say one of them. He's the top
weapon.
He is the top tight end wide receiver combo in the league, and I don't mean 2 players. I mean him on his own. I just think Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, and we saw him play on one injured ankle during the Super Bowl, and basically, or an injured shoulder, and basically beat the Eagles in the second half of the Super Bowl. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to come out throwing. He wants to prove again that he can be well, and I'm making the first official pick of the year, and it is the money.
All right. So, I mean, I'm just thinking about it, and, part of me wants to cover the spread on this one and say that the Lions will put up a good fight. Now, I think the Chiefs are definitely winning this game. The Patrick Mahomes, Jared Goff comparison, and just the simple fact that the Lions are still kind of growing as a team. I mean, it's one thing if the Lions are taking on, say the Packers, who have, definitely decreased, or Minnesota, who is prone to a bad game or two during the season.
Well,
but when you're
if the Lions were taking on the Packers, the Lions would be the favorite. I'll tell you that right now.
You're right. I'm just saying, it's like the argument you make, Nick, about the Jets when we were doing our NFL preview about Super Bowl or bust. Like, this is Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, who have won 2 of the last 4 or 5 Super Bowls. Like, you're not playing scrubs. You are playing the most elite of competition. It is a tough, tall task for Detroit to play the best team in the NFL in the very first week, in the very first game of the season.
Well, the Eagles might debate whether they're the best team in the NFL this year, but my point is that, also Andy Reid versus Dan Campbell. I mean, you have a coaching mismatch.
So I'm going to say take the money. I'm just saying don't completely count the Lions out.
Oh, no, you're totally right. And I agree with everything you're saying. The Lions will make it a game. And Travis Kelce being out is going to make this a game.
It is going to make a difference.
Yes. If Travis Kelce was playing, I wouldn't think twice. I did have to think about it twice with Kelce being out.
All right. We move on from the football world over to the baseball world. Unfortunately, it is not all sunshine and rainbows in the baseball world. leading off the baseball headlines, Dodgers pitcher Julio Urias has been arrested on an allegation of domestic violence, and he has now been officially placed on MLB's administrative leave list alongside the likes of Wander Franco. Obviously, two different kinds of circumstances. However, Nick, this is not the first time that Julio Urias has been faced with some sort of domestic violence issue. He faced one, I want to say 6-ish years ago.
I could find out. But this situation is not, and he was out on $50,000 bond as quick as you can possibly be. I don't understand what is the problem with these guys. Like, do you? Because I certainly don't.
Oh, by the way,
2019.
2019 is only 4 years ago. Man, time just feels so much longer or shorter. But here's something to note, by the way, because we made mention of Wander Franco and the hat day of the day that he was gone. The Dodgers were going to have a Urias bobblehead giveaway on September 21st. That has now been replaced with what is being called a, quote, Dodgers Collectors Vault giveaway. So I'm assuming they're just going to grab whatever they can from the team store, and it's just like, here you go.
See, wait a minute. The Dodgers did it right. You have a guy.
But again, the Rays only had a few hours.
Then give him a voucher. Give him a voucher. Just say, sorry, we can't give you the item. The Dodgers did it right. I mean, how can you give them an item for a guy who's a domestic violence asshole?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying to still give the gift. Obviously, I'm just saying the Rays didn't have a lot. Rays had a lot less time, but in this case, they made the no-brainer move. And I mean, quite frankly, well, here's the other thing, Nick, that makes the situation also different. Urias is a free agent at the end of the year. So, you know what? They can just go, we're done.
Well, yeah, he's going to be gone. And so,
no, but I'm saying, like, this is not the Trevor Bauer situation where we're like, well, it's going to depend. Can they get the moral clause to void the contract? You know, can they do that? And they still have to do they still have to pay it, even though, you know, they had no idea he was going to get arrested because the guarantees and everything. In this case, they can just wash their hands. But, I mean, Julio Urias, obviously innocent until proven guilty, but the fact that this is a second allegation in a
he's got a record.
Right.
He's got a record.
So he may have just not just played himself out of a new contract. He may have just ousted himself from Major League Baseball with what he's
Get the banner, because we know this is going to happen. So we all know what happens in this situation because Rob Manfred is going to do nothing. And because we say this, because Tom, we haven't said it yet, but Rob, when are you going to do something about this? When are you going to handle it? He's not. Let's just answer it. The question rhetorically.
Would you say the administrative leave is him doing something?
Second incident. You and I were talking about this. Second incident. He got 20 games. 20 games for domestic violence. Second time. He should be gone for the year.
There is actually a statement that has come out. Per an agreement between MLB and the MLBPA, Julio Urias has been placed on administrative leave until further notice as MLB continues its ongoing investigation. The administrative leave, which is effective immediately, is not disciplinary under the Joint Domestic Violence, Sexual Assault, and Child Abuse Policy. We will refrain from further comments until the appropriate time.
They took the easy way out.
But now here's my question. Since he's on the administrative list, and we just talked about this with Wander Franco, because Wander Franco is still getting paid. Does that mean Urias is going to be paid?
I mean, as long as they didn't say he wasn't going to be paid, he's technically going to be paid. So,
but I guess, you know what? 1 month in the season, he's not under contract next year anyway. Just give him the money, go away. If that's you say if you're the Dodgers.
But I just laugh at that because you heard what they said in the statement. the agreement was that under administrative leave, like he can't be disciplined under that policy. What is that? That's such a ridiculous statement in every way, shape, or form. And by the way, hey, Players Association,
You need to shut the fuck up.
I'm so tired of your nonsense defending these players. You defended Franco. You defended Urias. Why are you defending these guys?
It's their job. They are a players association.
I don't care. I don't care if it was a murder. I don't care if it was slipping on a banana peel. I don't care. Even though that would be kind of funny to watch an athlete slip on a banana peel. But my point is that I don't care. You shouldn't defend guys who are menaces to society. And Julio Urias is a menace to society.
I mean, you're not wrong. They still have to do their job anyway.
Hey, Rob, I could have done this job better than you. I would have stepped right in. I would have said, hey, Julio, second incident, gone. You're not allowed to come back. And I would have said, screw. And one other thing. I would have said,
no. I got to interject because actually, remember something that we talked about in a pre-show meeting. So, under the sexual or domestic violence policy of Major League Baseball, there is no minimum or maximum sort of penalty. This is not like the NFL where it's okay. First offense is this, second offense is this. It is purely up to the commissioner. Now, Urias last time got 20 games. I would assume this time he's going to get probably 50.
Get the banner again. because no, I'm serious. Because you're telling me 50 games for a second incident. What? First of all, let's get something very clear. Domestic violence is zero tolerance. I don't care when it happens, where it happens, how rich you are, how poor you are. I don't care. Domestic violence is not tolerable.
I would love to see a stingy kind of punishment for Urias, but
it's a second time. Like
I know, but I don't know if it's going to happen because the first time was only 20 games. Remember Marcell Ozuna?
And he came back. And he gets booed every single day he plays on the field. The last thing I was going to say is, screw you, Players Association. Stop defending these guys. You make yourself look like shitheads.
Oh, by the way, Nick, the statement, it came from the league. The league. So remember, it's a negative headline, which means he's not going to put his name to it.
Hey, Rob, maybe you should take your name off the commissioner's office door and walk out.
I'm sure a lot of people would be very happy with that.
You know, I don't know what's worse, Tony Clark or Rob Manfred. You know what? I'll answer that for you, and then we can move on.
All right. Quickly, just some other headlines we got to get through in the next 10 minutes or so. Triple header of Angels headlines. Triple header. So first of all, Shohei Ohtani's agent telling the media Ohtani is going to remain a two-way player. Even if he does not pitch in 2024, he does eventually wants to be able to pitch again. And it's like what I told you. Teams are going to go after him because he can do both things. He may not get, a 10-year, $500, $600 million contract, but an Aaron Judge style contract. Actually, I should say the 10-year 500, I guess, is still on the table considering Aaron Judge's kind of contract. But my point is he's still going to get a bag. Some team is still going to pay him. And Nick, judging by the other two headlines that we're going to go over, I know those two other headlines aren't exact. They don't involve Ohtani, but this statement combined with those headlines and frustrations leads me to believe I'm going to try to find the right sound effect for this. That the relationship, you know what? I know you just used that one, but I'm going to do it again. The relationship between the Ohtani and the Angels is.
Hey, that's quite accurate considering you're talking about money. But I have to say one thing about this also, which is people are seeing this headline from Shohei Ohtani's agent, who I think he's being repped by CAA, which is like the biggest agency platform out there. And people saw this news from his agent, and they went like this.
Oh, my God!
And I play that in pure sarcasm because people are overreacting like, oh my God, wait a minute, he's going to still be a two-way player? Oh my God. And I'm like, really? Really? What did you expect the agent to say? Did you expect his agent to say, well, he got 2 Tommy John surgeries, he should just give up, which means he can't do it, so we'll just be a hitter? You really, like, people need to use their brains. Like, he's going to be a two-way player until his arm falls off. Let's just put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's so frustrating to me. He's not going to get the $600 or $700 million that was reportedly on, well, I don't know who said it, but it was rumored. He's going to get $450. That's probably the ceiling on Ohtani deal, but people are acting like they're shocked that his agent came out and said he's still going to be a two-way. Of course he's going to be a two-way player.
He's the agent. It's like what I just said about the Players Association. Well, he is the agent. He is obviously going to defend his client.
Because people were like,
wow.
And I was like, don't say wow. Don't be surprised. He'll sign the contract. This would be hilarious. If he signed the contract and then said, I'm not going to be a two-way player anymore.
No, he wouldn't do that. I think Ohtani is a more respectable individual.
Can you imagine? Oh, I got my bag. Now I just don't have to be a two-way player anymore. That would be awesome. Screw you, Angels.
In other news about how the Angels just continue to screw things up, Mike Trout basically was talking to media, and obviously Mike Trout has had his injury issues this season, let alone just the rest of his career. And he said that basically a conversation is expected with Angels management come the offseason. Now, I don't know what this means. I don't know if this means that he is calling for a meeting with them or if they want to talk to him after the season. But let's be clear, Nick. Yes, Mike Trout has had a history of injuries. He has had a history of, these last several years have been struggles for him. In terms of on-the-field talent, he is still one of the best players in Major League Baseball. It is a matter of just he hasn't been healthy, and he hasn't been able to get the field time that he should. But there needs to be something said when the Angels only have made the playoffs with him on the team once, got swept, I believe, by the Red Sox. They didn't even have a playoff win. And then this trade deadline, and this stretches over to Ohtani too, because last trade deadline you had the opportunity to trade Ohtani, could have get a whole of prospects to re-up your farm system, and you had the opportunity again. You passed on it both times, and this time you went all in getting Giolito and all those guys that you just put on waivers. And the reason you put them on waivers is because everything managed to go so wrong. So you know what? Ohtani, Trout, I don't blame them if there's frustration. I don't blame them if they don't want to be on the team anymore, because Artie Moreno, you know what? You hit Artie Moreno. I'm going to do it one more time. You spun the wheel, and you know you hit.
I mean, the way I look at it is, first of all, Mike Trout has no leg to stand on. And that sounds kind of horrible considering he's been injured a lot. But my point is, he has no leg to stand on whatsoever. He has not been healthy for a full season in what, like 5 seasons or something? Like, the man can't stay healthy. What?
Okay, but here's my issue, because it's the catch-22, and I guess the Angels have put themselves in this situation. Yeah, you got that huge contract that you would have to, deal with. But on the other hand, I mean, can you really do? Because I feel like the Angels, Nick, they may have to hit full rebuild. And that's the problem here, is that
they can't trade that contract though. That's death. That's
right,
death by contract.
Unless they're eating most of it.
There's no way. There's no way. Now, they're not going to pull a Steve Cohen and say, no one has the deep pockets of Steve Cohen, by the way. But Artie Moreno, who is probably one of the stingiest, cheapest owners in all of Major League Baseball, you think he's going to go out and eat the rest of that contract? I mean, I'll look it up and see what Mike Trout has left.
I understand. But then you may be in a situation, Nick, where the rebuild is going to have to take longer. I mean, it's already going to have to take longer because you should have traded Shohei Ohtani in any of the 2 past trade deadlines, and now you screwed yourself again.
All right, so He's signed all the way with no ops, no anything. This is a straight contract from now until the rest of the contract 2031.
Oof.
And it's $35.45 million a year. Straight. No one's taking that. No one is taking that. I'm telling you right now. And he's got a full no trade clause.
I'm certain. Now, granted, Nick, considering the state of the Angels, I am certain if obviously it's a hard contract to trade. I'm just saying, I don't know if you can take the no trade clause in effect, but considering the state of the Angels, I think he'd waive that in a heartbeat, honestly.
Okay, but he's not going to go where he doesn't want to play. I'll tell you that right now. So, what teams are going to trade for him? The Yankees are not going to trade for him. They have enough injuries. The Mets, I don't think they're going to trade for him. The Dodgers, I don't think they're going to trade for him.
Then I'll be very brutal with the Angels. I think you're looking at a 10, 15-year rebuild.
I mean, the only team, and this would be a little bit bold,
Mets.
put Trout and Harper together in Philly.
Yeah. Oh, Philly, yeah.
I mean, would that be interesting? Yeah, it would be. Do I think the Phillies want to be in debt for the next 30 years? No. But I would be open to that if Philly would try to make a trade, like if they could get the Angels to eat half that contract, maybe, which is a lot of money, by the way. I'm trying to do the quick bit. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years after this at $35 million. So
there's going to have to but there is going to have to be a conversation. It's just, I don't know what direction that conversation goes because.
And he has the power. He has the full power with the no trade clause.
But he's also, but again, the Angels, who's going to take that contract on? Nobody, because that's the contract Mike Trout signed when he was a free agent 2018, 2019, whenever that was. So in a way you can say Trout kind of made his bed, but also I think this also again speaks to volumes of Artie Moreno not being able to build a team around Mike Trout. And if you think that contract's bad, Nick, I'd like you to meet Anthony Rendon. I think Nick, there is a conversation that he may top Giancarlo at this point as the worst contract in all of baseball.
Well, first of all, Mr. Rendon.
You need to shut the fuck up.
He did. He says, no habla Ingles. A reporter asked him a question about, his health status, and he says, no habla Ingles today.
I mean, this is going to be a horrible joke, but Anthony Rendon saying no habla Ingles is like watching a bad version of Cops when they catch somebody out and like, what did you do? What did you do? No habla Ingles? Blah, 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 blah. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, that's what he's doing. It's a bad version of Cops. Well, I suddenly forgot how to speak English.
Well, you know what? We would always joke with Nick that no habla Ingles. And here it is. It actually has come to real life. And I'm trying to look up, Nick. I'm trying to look up Anthony Rendon's contract now, because if you think the Trout contract is something, oh man. Okay, 7-year, $245 million contract before the start of 2020, after he helped the Nationals win in 2019.
What the fuck?
So it's not as long. But there's still 3 more years of $38 million play at this point for him.
Wait a minute. And he's got the full power.
And he has the full no trade clause too. Yeah.
The Angels don't learn from this. Like, they're the example that I want to make an example out of the Angels. That full no trade clause to work. Albert Pujols didn't work. Mike Trout's not working. Anthony Rendon's not working. It doesn't work. The no trade clause doesn't work.
Hold on, Nick.
I mean, yeah, it's true. The Angels are a circus, and unfortunately, they're stuck with a lot of bills too. Artie Moreno should have sold it when he had the chance.
Yeah, well, you know what? Everything is a blown opportunity with Artie Moreno.
I mean, perfect opportunity. Could have sold the team. Someone would have taken it over.
Someone could have taken Ohtani. Somebody could have, got you out of this Rendon contract. No, nothing.
Nope. I'd rather just be a headache, and on top of it, you're going to lose one of the greater players of all time in baseball for nothing.
Well, congratulations. You played yourself, Mr. Moreno.
Oh, God.
All right. One good story. You're mentioning the Yankees. Jasson Dominguez. I mean, I think this is a good way to end this episode. So, 3 home runs. The day we're recording this, he just hit his 3rd home run. It's his first at Yankee Stadium. I saw an interesting stat before that actually put him with some legendary company, and it has to deal with just the fact that he's so young. Okay, so through his first 5 MLB games, Jasson Dominguez, Nick, batting .333. His slash line is .333, .333, 810, 1.143 OPS, 3 home runs, 5 RBIs, and the Yankees are 5-0 ever since he has come up. Here's the stat, by the way. Jasson Dominguez has joined Mickey Mantle as the only Yankees aged 20 or younger to ever hit 3 home runs in a 5-game span. Dominguez has done it in the first 5 games of his career.
And somehow the Yankees will find a way to screw this up.
I mean, here's the thing, Nick. On one hand, I'm looking at what these rookies have done, and, you feel the frustration of, hey, if you had called them up sooner, if you didn't let the business of baseball take over and the, what is it, the manipulation, the service time manipulation, maybe you could have been in the wild card race again. But at the same time, you know what? We're about to see September 7th, 7.5 games out, 7 or so games out. When there's no pressure, this is the time to see these rookies in action, to see what you got. Because I think I talked about this with you and Hank that, you are going to have 10, 11, 12 open slots next year with your, considering your free agent class, considering Herman and Cordero are probably going to get released from their contracts in the offseason with their allegations throughout this year. So you're going to have all those roster spots. You have to see what you can bring up from your minor league system, be it your Dominguez's, your Wells's, and then see, what you're going to have to get. Because Dominguez, obviously, he's shot up, across the minor leagues pretty quickly. But at the same time, I mean, the fact that he's a center fielder and the Yankees need the outfield help.
I mean, they need the outfield help. They need a lot of help. Let's just be real. That the team needs to be redone in the worst way. You and I have said, they need to eat the Stanton contract. There's a lot that needs to happen.
Yeah, but I think it's good to end on just he has had a legendary start. Now, obviously, he's still a rookie. Eventually, he is going to hit a rough patch. But you know what? It's like what I said with Volpe. I like how everyone's talking about, the Yankee youth, and celebrating Volpe. Meanwhile, most of them wanted him sent back to the minors 3 months ago. Yeah, you're all freaking hypocrites out there. I'm all with some of these Yankee fans about, we need to relook at the Yankees in the front office, how they use analytics, but some of them are just.
Yeah, yap. Too busy spending money on the chicken tender buckets. I mean, it is what it is, but you know what? That's the end of episode 199. Somehow we made it through episode 199.
200 is next week.
Yeah, hopefully we don't have as many issues with that episode as we did with this episode. But make sure you follow us on social media at ETB Sports, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Follow the Empty the Bench Podcast Network at ETB Network, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Follow us on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network, 525 subscribers. Make sure you follow our website, etbpodcast.com, for all the latest blogs and information. We are in NFL mode. There will be a lot of NFL content, NFL fantasy content along the way. Make sure you tune into Football Friday tomorrow at noon Eastern. Mm-hmm. We will have a cavalcade of stars, as they say in the business, with us. This is going to be the most we've had in quite a long time. So make sure you tune in for that. We'll have our fantasy. We'll have our gambling. along with those picks as well. And that'll be on every Friday through up until the playoff games into the Super Bowl. We will make those picks. So make sure you stay with us on that. Any other announcements across the network? I don't know.
I think we are good. So tune in next week. So it'll be September 14th, 3 p.m. Eastern, for episode number 200 of
my God.
Empty the Bench.
Oh my God, 200 episodes. Oi. I don't even remember when episode 1 was.
August 31st, 2019.
Oh my God.
And that was before video. We were audio only.
Oh God. Thanks a lot, Google Audio.
So for Nick Morgasen, I'm Tom Albano. We'll see you next week for the big 200 celebration. Until then, take care, everyone.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.